Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to Tuesday. We're going to start off our English lessons today by looking at prefixes. And we had a look at these last week, right at the start of last week. So this is a little bit of a refresher. And we're going to look at three different prefixes: un, un, dis, dis, or mis, mis. Now, if we remember that a prefix is a group of letters that go before a word to change its meaning. And in this case, it makes it the opposite. So if we look at some examples down below, which of those three prefixes would go with the word happy to change its meaning and make it the opposite? Would it be dishappy, mishappy, or unhappy? I think we all know the answer to that one. It is unhappy. I'm sure you are not very unhappy at the moment. I hope not. The second one, we have agree. If we're changing that to the opposite, would it be disagree, would it be misagree, or would it be unagree? I can hear you shouting at the screen that it would be disagree, and you'd be right. And our third example, something you're very good at, behaving. So which prefix would you add to behave to change its meaning and make it the opposite? Would it be disbehave, misbehave, or unbehave? The answer to that one would be misbehave, something I've never ever spotted in my class. I'm sure you'll agree. Right, let's have a look at the first one in a bit more detail. Dis, dis. When we put dis as a prefix in front of a root word, it means the opposite of or not. Let's look at some examples. Appoint. If we put the prefix in front there, we've got disappoint, which changes the meaning altogether. Agree. If we put the prefix in front of agree, we've got disagree, which is the opposite of agree. Able. If you're able to do something, if we put the dis in front of that disable, you would not be able to do something. And another word I use often in class, honest or honesty. You're an honest bunch, but if you were not, and you were to put the prefix in front of that, you would be dishonest, which is obviously not a good thing to be. Let's have a look at the next one. We've got miss. Now, miss means wrong. We had an example on the first slide there with behave and misbehave, which comes up there. Okay, you can see from the little picture that that is not a good thing when you put a miss in front. If you misjudge something, if somebody was to throw a ball to you, for example, if you were to catch it, you've judged exactly where it's going to land. But if you didn't and it was dropped, you would have misjudged. Read being the same. If you misread something, you haven't read something correctly. Okay, so it is wrong. And then we've got understand and misunderstand. If you understand something, you know what you are doing, fantastic. If you misunderstand, you don't get it. And I'm hoping that when you're listening to this, you are all understanding what's going on and not misunderstanding, but I'll be able to find that later on when you hand in your work. The third one we talked about was and un means not. You can see from the picture of Mrs. Robinson here that she's not happy. Now we could add un to the root word fair. If something is fair, it's all well, all good. But if it's unfair, it's not right. Undo. You could do your shoelaces up, or you could undo your shoelaces. So it means the opposite, as you can see. You'll all be able to do this, but if for whatever reason you were struggling, we would say that you were unable to do this. You're not able to do it. And even though you are all happy, I hope this extra work does not make you unhappy. Now, one important thing to remember is this. When you use a prefix, a group of letters, you add it to the root word to change the meaning. Now, if you take the prefix letters off and the word that is left does not make sense, then this is not a prefix word. So if we look at the two examples below, I cannot just put the letters MIS in front of errable, because arable isn't a word. So miserable is not a prefix word. It's the same with under. Der isn't a word on its own. Der is not a word. So we cannot just put the prefix un before it to create under, because even though under is a word, it isn't a prefix word, because un would not go in front of der. Okay, this is the part where you get to have a go yourself. And I've got 20 words on the screen here. And what I'd like you to do using your jotter books, and if you could take a photograph or even write them onto the screen on your portfolios and send them back to me, if you can tell me which prefix would go with each of these words. Now, these words are all mixed up, so you're going to have to think carefully. You might want to ask mum or dad for some help as well. If I just take an example, which we mentioned earlier, the word behave, we said that the prefix that would go with that one would be mis, misbehave. Okay, so you just need to work your way through these words here, and hopefully you will find a prefix to match each one of them. Good luck with that. I look forward to hearing your replies.